Manhattan Neighborhood Network, in partnership with the League of Women Voters of New York, the Amsterdam News, and the Gotham Gazette, is pleased to bring you an interview with David Eisenbach, a candidate running for New York City Public Advocate. The New York City primaries will be held this Tuesday, September 12th, for offices from mayor through the City Council. The winners of the primaries, like this one for Public Advocate, will be the Democratic nominees for the November's general election. Some races do not have primaries. I'm Eleanor Tatum, publisher and editor-in-chief of the New York Amsterdam News. The Public Advocate's Office was created in 1993 to be a check on the mayor and the City Council. It is the second highest ranking elected office in the city. The Public Advocate is a non-voting member of the City Council with the right to introduce and co-sponsor legislation. They serve as a watchdog for city government, providing oversight for city agencies and investigating citizen complaints. Letitia James, New York City's current public advocate, has held the office since 2014. She is currently seeking re-election. She is not able to be with us here today. David Eisenbach is running against her in Tuesday's primary. Thanks for joining us today. So, how does your past experience qualify you to be public advocate? And what is your biggest professional accomplishment of your career?
I'm a teacher. I teach history at Columbia. I've been a teacher my entire career. It's the first time I'm running for office. And the way I see the Public Advocate's Office is as an educator, as somebody who hears from the public and then uses that information to then take positions on the issues and educate the public to galvanize the public to pressure the politicians to do the right thing. And I'm a great communicator. I'm bringing that skill set to this office. I've done this in the classroom every day, but I also have done this on television. So it's my communication skills that I think is my main asset in bringing to the office. I also have the integrity. One of the main problems that I see with this administration is the pay-to-play corruption. And I think this is endemic of the entire Democratic Party establishment.
And your greatest professional accomplishment?
My greatest professional accomplishment is what I do every day in the classroom. I get people excited about issues. I open up doors to young kids to get them to explore ideas, to teach them about history. Sometimes they've been kind of taught in a boring way about history. They have no interest in history, but they come into my class, they learn something, and they understand that we need to know about history in order to know about today. So it's that accomplishment every day, every year that I'm most proud of.
All right, now you say on your website that you want to rock the boat.
Yes.
What is your most radical plan for New York City?
Radical plan. Well, radical, if you'd say it's to be completely independent of the Democratic Party machine, of big real estate money, and to use that independence to call out a lot of the problems that we're seeing right now. The fact is that this administration is plagued by pay-to-play scandals. We had 8 different investigations by the U.S. Attorney and the Manhattan DA. And although they didn't indict, they did say that the mayor behaved unethically and broke the spirit of the law. And all the while, the current public advocate has been silent on that issue. She will not cross him. I will call out the mayor if he steps over the line into unethical illegal activities. Secondly, I think that we need to focus now on making the city truly more affordable. The mayor's affordable housing program has actually resulted in the city becoming less affordable. We have these big real estate giveaways connected in with pay-to-play of towers, luxury towers being built, rezoning of neighborhoods, the giveaways of parks and green spaces, libraries and hospitals. Again, public advocate silent on these giveaways. I will stand up and say this is wrong. This is not the way that the city needs to go.
All right, well, you are a historian, and right now the mayor has called for a 90-day review of all the statues and monuments that in some way may suggest hate or division or racism or anti-Semitism.
Yes.
Would you support the removal of controversial figures from city parks and public areas?
Yes, I would. I've also volunteered myself as a member of his commission. I would accept if he would appoint me. Let's just talk about the Columbus statue. I just came up with a plan, I announced it last week, for a new Columbus Circle. I believe that we do need to preserve the statue. The statue, when it was built in 1898 by Italian-American immigrants from their nickels and dimes collected together, was built in honor of a hero, okay? That they did not know the history that we now know. To them, he was somebody from their homeland who helped build in America, and that this statue was a way in which they were going to counter discrimination that they were facing from a majority of Americans. I think we need to preserve that, but we now know much more about Columbus than they did, and so we need to transform Columbus Circle in a new Columbus Circle that offers 3 different perspectives in the 3 different areas around the circle. We recognize conquest and the killing, the mass slaughter of the Taino people. We recognize slavery and the enslavement both of the Taino people and of the Africans that occurred under Columbus, and the importation of African slaves to the New World. But we also recognize in this plan the Italian immigrant experience and the experience, and we celebrate the immigration experience in general. And I can't think of a more important thing to do in the shadow of the Trump International Hotel than to have this learning experience in the new Columbus Circle for New Yorkers and tourists for generations to come.
So is that actually supporting the removal of controversial figures, or is that reimagining them?
Well, in the case of Columbus, I would not want to remove it. I would want to present a more complicated narrative and perspectives on the statue. I would actually support the mayor's plan to actually have discussions about each of the statues. I think it's a beautiful thing that we are having these discussions, because we do learn more about these figures that have been honored in the past, and maybe they should not be honored any longer. Maybe they should be removed, or maybe we need to provide supplemental educational panels and explanations.
So put it in context?
Put it in context. And I think this is a very healthy thing for any society to go through, and I think New York should do it also.
All right. Now, have you ever held public office?
I've never held public office.
Have you served on a community board?
I've never served on a community board.
All right. Do you see this position as a road to the mayor's office?
No, not for me. I see this is my dream job. I don't want to be a city councilman. I don't want to be a mayor. I want to be the public advocate. Like I said before, I'm an educator. I see the office as an educational office. I see my skills as a communicator will be perfect for this office. And most importantly, the fact that I'm not a career politician who was thinking about using this office as a stepping stone gives me the independence to step on the toes of even the most powerful people in this city, whether it's the mayor, whether it's the Democratic Party establishment, whether it is big real estate.
All right. If you are elected, how specifically would you work to make yourself available and accountable to the people of the city?
Social media. This is something that we have this incredible technology right now that allows the Public Advocate's Office to be more responsive than ever before. So I would use social media even more.
All right. And also, I mean, you are an educator. Would you support getting rid of Common Core standardized tests?
I would.
And why would you?
Why would I? I think that the standardized testing regime that has been implemented all around the country is destroying education. I have now taught for over 20 years on the college level, and so I've seen a generational change. The kids right now are so anxious. These testing regimes have turned them into these bundles of anxiety. They're literally being driven sick. They are taking medications in an unprecedented way. They are incredibly nervous, and they don't have the same passion for education that we should be endowing kids. We should not be training them to take tests, to become good little test takers. We should be training them to become thinkers and artists and innovators and entrepreneurs, and that only comes from having a passion for education and a curiosity which these tests do not engender.
So you're saying that test taking does not teach you to think critically?
I definitely don't think it teaches you to think critically. It teaches you how to be a good little test taker, and maybe that model would have worked in the past, when we were producing people to become, members of a corporation, employees of a corporation, work their way up the corporate ladder. That world is dead, right? Kids need to know how to be their own brand, how to be their own innovators, and this test-taking regime is not doing it.
Okay, let's move on to transportation. Yeah. Mass transit is a huge issue in New York City. How do you propose to fix the issues of safety and interrupted service?
Yeah. Well, here we go with what can the public advocate do with the MTA, let's say, right? Obviously, it's the mayor and the governor who are most responsible for this. But we have a issue here, in my opinion, that the MTA has lots of money. The problem is how they spend it. Right? They're talking how, we need more money to fix the signals. Meanwhile, they spent $1.5 billion on that subway station in Fulton Street, right, which is just some glorified mall. It was supposed to make Fulton Street much more easily navigable. It's less accessible for the disabled. They built another $2 billion station in Hudson Yards with this diagonal elevator, which they invented, which doesn't work, right? There is tremendous waste in the MTA. I don't trust a word they say about where the money is going. What I would do as public advocate, when they come up with these harebrained schemes, I will call them out. I will say, this is not where the money needs to go. It needs to go to things like the signals and safety. And so that's what my office would be, as a kind of watchdog over the MTA and all the other city agencies.
Well, I mean, as a public advocate has subpoena power. So how would you use that subpoena power?
Well, first off, I also believe there's a tremendous amount of fraud. There is fraud in the MTA, there is fraud in NYCHA, and this has resulted in lots of money going into the wrong places. So I would absolutely use that subpoena power whenever I saw instances of fraud, again, no matter how powerful that person was.
All right. Now, affordable housing.
Yes.
Many New York City residents are being priced out of the housing market. Rents continue to outpace incomes. Mm-hmm. Do you think the current approach to affordable housing is working in the city?
No, it's just backfiring. It's making the city less affordable. When the mayor rezones a neighborhood and then allows for these luxury towers with a percentage of affordable housing, the effect of that is to get all the landlords in the surrounding buildings to start seeing dollar signs. They start jacking up the rents on working New Yorkers. This causes displacement. They even start warehousing empty apartments in anticipation of all the yuppies from Manhattan moving into the neighborhood. This is going on in Crown Heights. This is going on in East Harlem. It's going on all over the city. So no wonder homelessness has skyrocketed. And where does it all get back to? It gets back to this mayor being the puppet of big real estate. As public advocate, I will call out all of these big real estate giveaways that are not in the interest of building more affordable housing. Also, I have an appointment to the City Planning Commission. My appointee on the City Planning Commission will be a skunk at the party. It'll glue in the works for any of these corrupt luxury tower schemes. My appointee will stop them and inform me about all the secret discussions that go on in the City Planning Commission so that I will alert the activists before the decisions get handed down as done deals.
So, I mean, this goes right into the whole issue of homelessness.
Yeah.
And according to your website, you oppose the mayor's plan and you're calling for an investigation into the causes of homelessness, which you just actually mentioned some of them.
Yeah.
Aren't we past that point of investigation and actually need action? And do you have the seeds of a plan that would go forward?
Well, in order to find out why homelessness is increasing, we do need an investigation. This mayor, first off, he denied it for years, right? And then he finally, when push came to shove and the election was coming around, saying, all right, now here's my plan. This half-baked plan about how he's going to create these different shelters in all these different neighborhoods. Why wasn't that part of the original plan years ago, right? It just smacks of political opportunism. We need an investigation so that we can get on the table. What are the causes? And once we understand the causes through a public hearing, let's say, we could then start to address them. I think the mayor's affordable housing plan is one of the causes. He would never accept that. Tish James would never challenge him on that. All right, I will challenge the mayor, him or any other, to look at this affordable housing plan, which I think is making the city less affordable.
And now let's look at public housing
Yeah.
in that same vein. And it's no secret that the public housing developments in the city have fallen into serious disrepair.
That's right.
And again, you are calling for an investigation. While these investigations are going on, these people are still living in squalor. Where do you stand on selling this land to private developers?
Yeah, I'm against it. I think it's yet another one of these pay-to-play big real estate giveaways that the mayor is just doing all over the place, including in NYCHA. So I mean, I'm against that. Look, one of the strange things is that people in NYCHA are now reaching out to me, the public advocate candidate, because they're getting no response from the public advocate's office. They're inviting me into their apartments to look at the mold in their bathrooms, to look at one mother, single mom, showed me how the ceiling fell in onto her daughter's bed. And she had to move her daughter into her room because she was afraid that the ceiling was going to fall in while her child was sleeping. They feel as though they're living in unsafe conditions, and they are reaching out to David Eisenbach, the public advocate candidate, right? Because the public advocate's office is not giving them attention. All right, I will be a public advocate that will be concerned about this. I will take cameras in. I will publicly shame NYCHA for the resources that they are not putting into fixing and just making homes livable and safe for a mom and her two daughters.
All right, college costs.
Yeah.
You say that government gives colleges a blank check. Are you saying that we can contain college costs by audit sitting in state colleges? What are you envisioning?
Here's my concern about saying, well, the public, the taxpayer, is now going to fund the tuitions for all in-state students. That is a blank check to college administrators, and I know enough college administrators to know that they will just jack up the tuition if they feel as though there's no market control, that if the taxpayer is on a hook for this, well, and if the students aren't going to complain, if the parents aren't going to revolt, I'll just raise tuition, and that will put an undue burden on taxpayer money, which should be going to other things. I think we need to contain college costs by making sure the money is going in the right directions, and that means the classroom. What we have seen over the past decade with the exponential explosion in tuitions is the money is going into administration. You have all this administration, this huge overhead that is being funded with all these deans and assistant deans for this, that, and the other thing, when it should be going to the classroom, to the experience that is going on in the classroom. That's what the students are paying for. So we have to have an investigation too, and my plan is to actually rate every single New York City college on how much money is going in the classroom and the educational experience versus how much is going to administration. And this is a very easy thing to study and alert every student, right? This is where your tuition money is going to go if you go to this school.
All right, and our last question. This is on everyone's minds these days, and that's immigration and undocumented immigrants.
Yes.
And, New York is wanting to be, and it's called a sanctuary city.
Yeah.
What steps will you take to protect undocumented immigrants?
Well, we just have to constantly be vigilant. I mean, every time the president does something, every time the Republican Congress does something that we don't believe in, which violates the rights of immigrants, which threatens the livelihood of New York. Let's keep in mind, right? The immigrants of New York City are taxpayers. They're a major piece of the New York City economy, right? We are all threatened when they get threatened. And we will stand up. My public advocate's office under me will stand up to defend them every step of the way. And I will bring my skills and talents to their cause, as well as so many that we discussed today.
All right, is there anything else you want to add?
Small business.
Do you have a plan to help reinvigorate small business?
Absolutely. Well, small business is in a crisis. We all know that. We see empty storefronts all over the place. We've even gotten to the point where it's called high rent blight, where the landlords are warehousing the empty storefronts because they figured out a way to make more money not renting the space than renting it. We knew about this. We saw this 4 years ago. In fact, Tish James, she was a proud sponsor of the Small Business Job Survival Act when she was running for public advocate, but then flip-flopped in what I believe is the greatest flip-flop in the history of the public advocate's office and abandoned the bill, suddenly claiming that it has legal problems, without specifics, mind you. I know the history of this bill. This bill is the most legally vetted piece of legislation in the history of the city of New York. Not a single New York City lawyer, not a corporation counsel, not a single New York State lawyer has gone on the record to say this bill is illegal for this, that, and whatever. All right, this is a Rebney big real estate talking point, which she is parroting. Now, what's the problem here? Well, this bill would actually prevent the skyrocketing rents that are going up 300, 400, 500% at least renewal time. This would actually maintain the small businesses. And her failure, her abandonment of this bill, and it's not just her, right? It's the entire administration. It's the city council speaker who refuses to allow the bill to even come up for a vote. For the first time in 30 years, this bill has not had a public hearing under this administration. They're all guilty of this. The result of this has been this decimation of small business. And I'll tell you what, historically, after every crash of the economy, the stock market goes down, taking with it the real estate industry. It's always been small business that has floated us through the storm. We have now gutted small business. We've cut away that safety net. And I believe that we are on the precipice of another stock market crash, another real estate crash. And when that happens, we won't have small business to float us. We're going to be seeing the greatest fiscal crisis since the 1970s.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today,
Thank
David.
you.
And we will see you on Election Day.
All right.
The primary elections will be held on Tuesday, September 12th. For more information about voting, locating your poll site, and the candidates, you can visit the League of Women Voters website, lwvnyc.org. You can also visit the website mnn.org and click on Race to Represent to find out about the candidates and your district. Please remember, only voters enrolled in a political party having a primary may vote in the primary election on September 12th. Thank you for watching Race to Represent on Manhattan Neighborhood Networks. Goodbye.